Hi folks, thanks for joining me for this week's Stillwater pattern. This fly is a Stevie Cullen inspired lure. Stevie Cullen's an amazing angler. He was in the world team last year, but he's also a very inventive fly tyer. And he posted a photograph of a similar fly to this. I've changed it slightly to suit my own needs, and that's what we're going to tie. So without further ado, let's get into it. So in the vise we have a Hanak H230 barbless hook at size 10. This is a medium wire hook and it's in black nickel. The thread we're going to be using today is the UTC Ultra thread at 140 denier, and it's in black. This is what I'm going to start with anyway. So first thing to do is get a bit of wax onto our thread, and I'm going to catch that just in behind the eye and get a bed of thread down onto my shank. I'm going to bring it back just shy of where a barb would be on a barbed hook. Take away your waste. Now for the tail of this fly, I'm going to use some Glow Bright number 12, which is bright green, and I'll just take a length of that off, and I'm going to fold it in half, then fold it in half again, and then fold the 4 strands in half. So what I've got is a total of 8 strands for my tail. Now I'll just quickly bring my thread back up to the top here. I'm going to catch it in at the tip. Now once you've got it caught in, you can pull it all so it's tight and it sits nice on the top of the shank then. And you can bring it round all the way to the back of the hook, and where the barb would be is where I'm stopping. Now I'm going to snip this a little bit longer than I would usually like my tails, so it's roughly 1.5 centimeters. So far so good. Now next I'm going to add my ribbing, and all I'm using is some flat silver tinsel. I've lost the label of it, but it's fairly generic flat silver tinsel, and I'm going to catch that in next. Just a couple of loose wraps and then back to the start. I'll just try and bend that out of the way. Now for my body material, I'm going to use some dyed black peacock herring, and I've selected 2 strands of this. Now I've actually bought this dyed black, but if you're interested, Davey McPhail does an excellent video on how to dye your own peacock herring, and I'll stick that up in the little bar there if you want to go over and have a look at Davey's video on how to dye peacock herring. So what I'm going to do is I've got the 2 strands here, and what I want to do is I tie in the thin ends first. Now that's where they're weakest, and what I always do is run my fingers up until they snap, and that's generally where the weak point is. And then what I do is trim up the ends and tie in the 2 bits that I have left. I'll just bring that over now. Now don't come too far up with this. That's enough. So I've left about 1/4 of an inch there actually. So next you can bring your body around the fly, around the shank, sorry, not the fly, and bring it all the way up to where you stopped your thread. Don't be too fussy with it because the rib is fairly thick and we're going to tie quite a bit of that on. I'll just bring that round snip away my excess, and then at this point what I'm going to do is cast this thread off. Trusty whip finisher. Well, it's not that trusty, but it's coming on. So I can just take that thread away now. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to cast on some of this. It's Viva's GSP, it's at 50 denier. And I'm just going to add a little bit of wax to the point of this, just to get it onto the thread. It should be already quite well bedded down. Now the reason I'm changing threads is, as you've seen from the introduction, that the fly has quite a bright green head, and if you don't change your thread, the black does show through on that, especially when the fly's wet. So that's why I've changed to the GSP, and also I'll be able to split this thread to create a dubbing loop. I could have done that with the black, but as I said, it would have been black. Next then, we're going to bring our rib up. Now the rib's quite thin, so before I do that, I'm going to use a little bit of super glue. Hopefully I'll put it on the right side, and it'll just help give the fly a little bit more life after you start fishing with it. So I'm going to come the opposite way to the way I've done the herring, although it doesn't make much difference with herring. It stands up that well. You don't need to really worry. And I want at least 3 turns of this showing. And the 4th turn is going to be quite largely covered by the wing. So I've caught that in. I've managed to get the super glue the right way around, and I'm just going to snip that away. It's all looking not too bad. Just going to wet my thumb and forefinger, slick everything back, stab myself with a hook point. Ow, that was sore. Right, next I'm going to use some black Marabou. I'm using the stuff from Comp Candy, and this is the Black Jack. I've been very impressed with the Comp Candy Marabou. It's, I mean, this is the plume I've just taken out. You can see even at the very base of the feather, it's all usable. So I'll just take off a thumbnail's worth of this, and I want to trim away this raggedy end here. Then I'm just going to lick it. Just helps to tie in easier if you dampen down the ends. And then I'm going to come across and capture that in. Perfect. Now as you can see, what I've got is I've ended up with quite a large looking head, but that'll be sorted out in a second. So the wing can't stay like that, so I'm going to come in with my thumb and forefinger in my right hand, pinch down on it, and then remove my waist. Again, dampen down your thumb and forefinger, just get everything slicked back. It just makes your life a whole lot easier when you come to do the next part. Next I'm going to add my head, and what I've done is I've got some of this hen's, it's the micro dubbing, and I'm going to combine the number 93 and the number 96. I haven't got a coffee grinder or anything. I just take 2 little pinches out of the tubes, and as you can see here, I just mix them up with my fingers. Okay, I'll just put that down for a second. Next, now I could create a dubbing loop here, but I'm going to take the shortcut and just open up my thread to do a very similar thing. Just bear with me, my old eyes take a wee while to get in tune with that. So once the thread's opened, I can insert my dubbing, give it a little spin up. Just takes a moment, could sing you a song, but you'll probably click away quicker than a speeding bullet. Okay, so I've spun that up now, and what I want to do is just thin it out and make myself a very small brush. And you can keep that for the next fly. So what you want to do is start where your wing is locked in. Once you've got a turn in, pull it all back and just keep coming forward until you get to the front of the fly. Now, if you're of a mind to, you could colour this in with red, black, or you can just leave it plain, it's up to you. So you've got to build up your head if you want one. You can of course take the dubbing right to the eye. But if you don't do this with a Vivas, then it ends up being very small because it's so thin in diameter. So I've got my whip finish tool, I'm going to come in, I'm going to try and come in and whip finish the head. Then you can simply take your thread away, and to finish off, a little bit of UV resin for me. You can use head cement or super glue if you wish. And then we just cure that off. So thanks to Steve Cullen for the inspiration. Black and green, as I said, it's an amazing colour for this time of year. And next year when you're actually getting out fishing, it'll be worth giving a swim. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.